Welcome, everybody. Joined today, Dr. Silkman, Jessa Denny, Jeff, Reality Check. Uh, Most of you have been through all the interviews we have gone through already. Uh, what are you guys' take on everything we've heard up until this point? Being this is only, 10 days after Teresa Halbach was last seen?
Well, it's clear that they're putting a lot of pressure on the family to turn on each other, especially with Chuck. As Dr. Silkman pointed out, it, um, last time, I guess it was last week, they really try to, when they interview Earl, they really try and find his soft spot. And it has to do around the business and around the family. And that's where he starts to give them information that he says, "Oh, now you're being cooperative and telling us the types of things that we want to know," because he starts bringing up Marie and that kind of stuff. So they already have their myopia going, and they're just looking for the interviewees, to tell them stuff about Stephen that they can possibly use to pile on, because it's clear they've already got their mind made up about him.
The thing that stands out to me is this family has already gone through this once. They've watched Stephen be wrongfully convicted. They knew the truth. 16 people testifying. They already know what the cops are capable of. So every one of them is in fear and of what's going to happen this time. They're just, they know.
Explain why we got some individuals stating now that Stephen is guilty 100%. People in his family. Just came out.
Well, I think the family is
it's horrible what's happening, in my opinion.
Turning on each other, right? Just because of just all the mess that this situation is. The closer Zellner gets, in her desire to name a Denny suspect, that the more reasonable doubt that she can cast, the better off she is. The better job that she's doing for her client. And I think, unfortunately, for the family, she is really, just as time goes on, just pointing harder and harder at Bobby Dassey. And Barb has been one of Stephen's allies. Even though there's some time around making a murder, they have at it. They always seem to make up. But I don't think she wants to hear anything about her, Bobby being guilty of this. She certainly does not believe that he is guilty of this. I'm not even sure if Zellner really does, but that's her best Denny suspect right now.
Yep. Yeah. Well, let's start from the beginning. The very first interview we have are with Stephen. They interview him on the 5th. They don't really gain anything from that. Obviously, they let him go. They come back on the 6th. They get Bryan and Brendan. Mm-hmm. We don't really know what Bryan said. You got Brendan.
Yeah, but with that if I could just interject for a second, when O'Neill spoke with Brendan, the mere fact that Brendan, as we discussed before, changed his story 3 times, mm-hmm. right? I think that sent up a red flag immediately. Right, this is very early on in the investigation, and that red flag was, okay, this is about the observation of the bus driver, and the mere fact that Brendan was willing to change his story, right? He gave 3 different stories. To someone like O'Neill, who's a trained investigator, that would have sent up a red flag. That information would have been sent on later on to Fassbender and Wiegert, mm-hmm. right? So early on, what they were doing is the whole family got put under pressure, right? And everyone's pointing a finger at each other.
Just think if that would have been Stephen leaving to go get some soda instead of Brendan and Bryan.
Yes.
How do you think things would have played out then?
Well, I don't think Stephen would have given him anything. He would have given the story, the mere fact of he would have recalled.
I mean, when they talked to Blaine,
Yes,
Barb was present.
that's correct. That's correct. But
It's
Blaine
not her
told
fault
them.
not being there in Crivets because she was nowhere near him.
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, it.
But technically,
When,
should they have even questioned him without a parent present?
Psh, they didn't care. They're doing whatever they want.
yes, they did. They did. And the whole family got put under pressure. The key thing though, the key thing was the presence of the RAV4 at the Avery salvage yard, right? And all the detectives, all the investigators kept on saying to all of them, "What's that RAV4 doing
Okay.
on your yard?"
Well, so let's take it like this. What was the main purpose of Brennan's interview, do you believe? To get her
When
to
he was into
Yes, to get her to say
The
that he's seen her.
Crivets interview? Fact finding. Yeah.
And Brennan is
Well-
repeating everything he's heard other people have been saying over the past day. Probably
Yes.
3 days since the 3rd when Colburn showed up.
Yes. But remember, when he was initially questioned, Millbilly, Brendan Dassey said, "I saw nothing. I went off the bus with my brother and I went home." He was challenged by O'Neill. The moment O'Neill had discussed or had a conversation with Skalinsky, Skalinsky told him about the bus driver. All of a sudden, the interview went hostile.
How
Right?
you got two people walking down the same road, but they don't see the same things?
Correct. And Blaine told Skalinsky the day prior that both him and his brother went off the bus and went home. And what's the common theme? Brendan loves playing video games. So he spent most of his time in his bedroom playing video games. He wasn't involved in any of these shenanigans. O'Neill challenged him and said, "You are withholding information."
The PlayStation was Bryan's.
Yes.
Because when he moved out, he took it.
Yep. Yep.
So
But
Brendan was always playing.
most likely that PlayStation was probably in where Bryan mostly frequented, was probably be in the basement. Because that's where his
could
room
be.
was.
Yep.
So
Could
if
well
Brendan
be,
was
but-
playing video games, he would
Maybe.
see him. It may have been in the living room. But
Yeah,
we
because
all know we all know where the computer was.
you needed
correct.
to be near a phone line because so they used the AOL. Brendan played online with his friends, so he would have had to plug that into a telephone. Maybe Bryan had a phone downstairs. I'm not sure how well equipped Barb's trailer was for a telephone.
Well, back then the internet for video game systems wasn't as like it is now. You actually have to, for the PlayStation 2, it depends on which one you bought. You actually had to buy an adapter to get to the internet that plugged into the back of it, and then plug that into a phone line. But
I recall Brendan played online though. I'm pretty sure
it's very
he played
plausible.
online.
I really don't know.
Okay, so here's my question then. If you're plugging it into the phone line, could you still receive phone calls?
No. Blaine makes that statement in his affidavit that we just read. As a matter of fact, that Blaine needed to make a phone call to be able to do work, but Brendan wanted to play video games. Right? That was in Blaine's affidavit that we just read.
I can remember when my friends they had a computer when computers were just becoming around, and we pick up the phone. They had two phone lines. One of them was for the computer, and somebody pick up the phone line, knock them right off.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's get to this interview with Bryan Dassey. It occurred 11/10/2005. They initially talked to Lori and Pete Dassey, and then they get in contact with Bryan Dassey and ask him to meet them at the Aurora Medical Center. Here we go.
The date is November 10th, 2005. The time is 5:41 p.m. This is S.A. Lisa A. Wilson, Special Agent with the State Division of Criminal Investigation. Also present is Calumet County Investigator Wendy Baldwin and Bryan, B-R-I-A-N, middle initial J, last name Dassey, D-A-S-S-E-Y, date of birth 07/15/1985. We're currently at the Manitowoc Hospital discussing with Mr. Dassey a search warrant for him to obtain buccal swab saliva.
These recordings are suspect.
Okay, S.A. Lisa A. Wilson entering the examination room. Now that the examination of Mr. Dassey is complete, the time is 6:14 p.m. And right now it's myself and Mr. Dassey in the examination room with investigator Baldwin and the Two Rivers officer just outside. Do you have any questions now that this is all done? The examination's all done, Bryan? Okay. At this point, we'll just go back to the Two Rivers Police Department, and they can collect the fingerprints that we need to collect from you there as well. And then the palm prints too, I believe the search warrant called for. And we'll just go back and do it there since we don't have the equipment to do it here. Okay. Any questions? And if you want to, you can we'll just follow the Two Rivers officer on over there then.
Okay.
So, okay. And
So
then
I'll be riding with you guys then? Or
you can ride with us, or you can just bring your own car and follow the Two Rivers officer, and we can do it that way too.
whatever.
Either or is fine. So, okay. At this time, we're leaving the examination room, and I'll be turning off the tape recorder until we get to Two Rivers Police Department. Time is 6:15 p.m. Okay, it's 11/10/2005, November 10th, 2005, at 6:26 p.m. Special Agent Lisa A. Wilson, Investigator Wendy Baldwin, Calumet County, and Bryan Dassey, and we just arrived and walked into an interview room at the Two Rivers Police Department. And a correction from my earlier statement, the hospital, that was Aurora Medical Center, and it's actually in Two Rivers. So if I said Manitowoc, I want to make that correction on the tape. Here you go, Bryan. Here's my business card as well, so you have both of ours. And we had read you Miranda rights at the hospital, and I just want to remind you of those Miranda rights since we're still here and we still need to collect your fingerprints and palm prints as part of the search warrant. So, do you have any questions about your Miranda rights?
No.
Okay. And are you still willing to speak with us?
Sure.
Okay. Like I said, I know Special Agent Strauss had spoke with you over the weekend up north, and I just have a couple follow-up questions that I wanted to ask based out of her interview with you, and just a couple other questions that have come up as we've gone along here. Is that okay? Okay. And I just want to focus in on that one day, on that Halloween day, October 31st.
I was even home, so.
Okay. I just, like I said, and this is kind of give me a little bit of knowledge here too. You worked that day, right?
That's right.
Okay. And what were your shift hours, or what time do you leave the house?
Usually around 5:30 in the morning.
Okay, 5:30 in the morning.
Get home around 5 o'clock at night.
Home around 5 o'clock at night. Okay. And where do you work at?
It's Rivers. Woman Face Veneer.
I'm sorry, I heard Two Rivers and I heard Veneer.
Yeah, Woman Face Veneer.
Face. I need the word between Rivers and face, sorry.
No, it's where I work in Rivers, but the
Oh.
place is called Woman Face Veneer.
Okay. Woodland face?
Woodland, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, now I'm hearing you. Woodland face veneer. What do you do there? Make furniture or?
Just I spray, then she veneer.
Oh, okay.
Face out of it.
Okay. Now, last Monday when you went to work, did you drive by yourself? Because it's my understanding that your mom
Yeah, my mom
works there too. Did you ride together or
Usually carpool.
Did you last Monday?
I don't remember.
Okay. You don't remember if you carpooled with your mom?
No.
Okay.
Usually I spend the night at my girlfriend's house. So.
Okay. So you don't remember for sure if you did on Halloween? Okay.
I know I spent the night there, but.
At your mom's house?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't remember if my car or carpool with her.
And which car is yours, or what car do you drive?
Eagle Town. So I'm sitting.
That
on
fancy
Street.
one sitting out front?
Yeah.
I say the one with the really fancy paint job?
Yeah.
And the spoiler?
It's mine.
Okay. Does that have big sound?
Hmm?
Does it have big sound? I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
Are you working on it?
Good sound. It's pretty good.
Yeah?
Looks like it would.
Yeah, as I was say, it looks like it would. That's why I was asking. But I didn't look inside of it, so I just saw it.
I have another question.
Yeah.
When can I pick my car up? Because the other detective, Gray or whatever his name is, said that I could pick it up yesterday. He said that
How about if I have your cell phone? You
Yeah.
usually have that on with you.
yeah.
After we're finished here, we're going to be going back there, and I'll find out from you,
Okay.
and I'll let you know when you can do that, okay?
I
Or if you
appreciate it.
can, or when it may be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let
Okay.
you know.
Great.
I got a spare key in my wallet, and I wouldn't have to go in the house or anything.
Okay.
Just grab it and go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's good to know. Any other questions?
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So do you remember last Monday, did you do anything special for Halloween with your girlfriend or
Well,
friends or
just
anything?
spent the night over there and went to work the next day. And
Okay. So when you got home from work on Friday, or correction, Monday, Halloween day, around 5 o'clock,
around 5 o'clock, usually I take a shower, get ready, and then I go to my girlfriend's house.
is that what you did last Monday then, on October 31st, Halloween day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that a usual, like, nightly
Yeah, it's
procedure for you?
yeah,
Get
it's
home from
usual.
work, get yourself cleaned up, and go on over to her
Yeah.
place? Okay. And then, but you said then you came back home that night and slept at?
No, again, I spent the night over by my girlfriend's house.
Okay. How long do you think you were home from the time that you got home from work until the time that you got yourself cleaned up and out the door to your girlfriend's place?
I would say maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay. And what did you do in that time frame that you were at home and then that
Shower,
you left for your girlfriend?
get dressed, basically. Just down here, put deodorant on, stuff like that.
Uh-huh. Get ready for her?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. Did you eat dinner?
Well, I usually eat by then, actually. So,
Oh, at your girlfriend's house?
yeah.
Does your girlfriend live with her family or?
Yeah, she lives with her family, my husband, so.
Okay. So do you eat dinner at your girlfriend's house? Who was at home when you got home from work on Halloween? Was your mom
I would say
home?
mother might have been home. I think she
Okay.
was though. I don't really pay attention to that because I'm always in a rush to leave, so probably Brennan, he'd be at home playing video games. So, let's see Brennan.
That's your younger brother?
Huh?
That's your younger
yeah,
brother?
he plays video games all the time, so he'd be home.
Yeah. How old is he?
15 and a half. I think he might be 16 actually now.
Okay.
How long am I this guy's turn, so.
Ah, okay. Look out.
Yeah.
And then, do you have two other brothers that live there too? Do you recall if either of them were home?
I really don't know because my other brother Bobby, he's usually home when I get home, but that day I don't know. I'm not positive
Okay.
if he was there or not.
And what about your other brother?
Blaine, that's who I wouldn't know. I didn't see him there. I don't know if he was outside working on his bike or, keep busy, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it sounds like you're in the house and out pretty quick, so.
Mhm.
Do you recall, I know it's hard because you don't recall who was even in your house, but do you recall seeing anybody else that Halloween day, that Monday? No, I know, at the end of that driveway there, it's like Steve's place and then your mom's place, right? Did you see Steve at all that day that you recall?
No. I know he's got his truck out there, and I really don't pay attention to anything else. I didn't see him personally there, but I think I saw both vehicles, the Grand Am and the truck out there.
Okay,
So I was assuming maybe he would have been home,
okay,
but I wouldn't know for sure.
okay.
You know, I don't knock on his door and ask him if he's home. You know?
Sure, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So, did you see any other cars or vehicles out
No.
there? I mean, as far as like, or even like a snowmobile? Did you see a snowmobile out there at all on a trailer or in the area at all? Do you recall seeing that? Any type of
Well, actually,
snowmobile out
we
there?
brought a snowmobile home from up in Crivets.
Uh-huh. Did you help bring it home?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Skidoo Mach 1. So, yeah, I don't know who it is.
Is it yours?
No, it's not mine. It's my uncle. He was going to trade it in for a new one.
Okay.
When did he bring it home? This last
Uh-huh.
weekend?
No. Maybe like 2 weekends ago, 3 weekends ago. I'm not positive on that.
So did you park it outside then, or was it
Yeah,
sitting outside?
we parked it outside and put the cover over the top.
Do you know if it was outside that night?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm busy getting ready.
Sure.
I'm out the door as fast as I come in, so.
I hear you. But when you brought it back from up north, did it stay on the trailer
Yeah,
or did you guys take it off and put it somewhere?
basically we just dropped it. It stayed on the trailer. I don't know what he did after that.
No, yeah, I'm just asking when you brought it back. You didn't help unload it off the trailer?
No.
Okay. And you don't recall if you saw it or not that Monday night? Okay. When you guys brought it home, where did you guys drop the trailer at?
Is this really important?
I don't know. I don't know.
This is just a snowmobile on a trailer.
Right.
But we have reasons why we're asking it, so just be truthful. It's
I don't know.
not hurting you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like dumb questions to you
Yeah,
probably, but
it's pretty dumb question.
it's important to us
Okay.
for reasons, okay?
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
No, I really don't know where it was parked after that.
Okay.
I mean, I can't give you a visual of where it was parked.
What about any other vehicles that were out there? Do you recall any other vehicles that were out there?
The truck was parked in front of the garage.
Which truck is that?
Stevens,
Okay.
black one.
In front of his garage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Rolly Johnson's garage.
Yeah.
His house.
Yeah, I guess the garage, like the one car garage?
Yeah, the one car garage. And
Okay.
the house trailer is Rolly Johnson's.
Okay.
He's just staying there.
Okay. And you said that he has another car that was there?
Yeah, it's Grand Am.
You said that was there. Do
Those
you?
are the 2 drivable vehicles that he had.
Okay. Do you remember where that was parked at?
That was right beside the truck, actually.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Is there some sort of Suzuki Samurai or something that's out there?
Samurai out there.
Okay.
Hard top.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
They're actually gonna fix that for Grandpa.
Okay. So, so it's not running right now,
No, it's not running.
but the intention was to fix it up for your
Yeah.
grandfather?
Yeah.
To keep down here, or?
No. You're correct.
Oh, at your land, at your family's land up north? So you said you didn't see Steve that day, and we talked about your family at your place. Did you see anybody else at all there at all?
It's not a usual day.
Okay, like Chuck or anybody else,
Nobody
or
else.
anybody visiting the salvage yard, or friends of Steve's or Chuck's or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. Do you remember what you were wearing?
Oh, God.
I mean, is there a certain like usual work attire that you wear? And it sounds like you change out of it right
Yeah, I
away when you
change
get
out
out
of
of
it.
when you get
But
home. But
usually I wear blue jeans, of course.
sure,
And maybe Echo sweater, maybe. I'm not sure.
okay. And that's what you would change into, or that would be your
That'd be what I change into.
right?
Yeah,
Not wearing your Echo sweater to work. Oh. The tape is indicating that's going to run out, so I'm going to flip it over.
They flipped it over, but we don't have any audio.
Somebody forgot to hit the record button.
I suspect they didn't get the answers when they asked about if there was a fire, because we don't really know, but I'm suspecting they didn't get the answers they wanted.
Yep. Well, we got the DCI reports.
Well, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so to me, you know, you kind of hear this narrative of, you know, Teresa Hallback murdered at the end of this dead end road, you know, and the more you hear these interviews, the more you realize that this place was more like Grand Central Station than it was, you know, an abandoned dead end road. We had Ma coming by to bring the mail. We had Blaine and Brendan coming home at a certain time. We had Bryan coming home at a certain time. We had Barb coming home not once but twice, right? Because she came home once and then she went to the hospital with Scott, and then her and Scott came back and saw the fire. When was all this murdering and dismembering going on?
Well, the
You know?
first DCI report is them obtaining the buccal swabs and fingerprints and palm prints. And
So which one? 69.
yep.
Okay. So would you like me to read that for us?
Sure.
Okay. So that's where are you at? Okay. The data report is 11/15/2005. Activity transport evidence obtained from Bryan Dassey to Crime Lab. Date of activity 11/10/2005 to 11/11/2005. On Thursday, 11/10/2005, at approximately 9, while at Stephen A. Avery Sr.'s property, 12932 Avery Road, 2 Rivers, Wisconsin, Special Agent Lisa A. Wilson provided Special Agent James C. Holmes with evidentiary items that were collected from Bryan J. Dassey, date of birth 7/15/85. Earlier in the day on 11/10/2005. The items were listed on DCI property receipts numbered D7709, D7710. Special Agent Wilson provided Special Agent Holmes with the following evidentiary items for transport to the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory in Madison, Wisconsin for comparative purposes. DCI property receipt D7709 is 2 buccal swabs collected from Bryan J. Dassey, sealed in an envelope. And item number D7710 is 1 fingerprint card and 2 palm prints taken from Bryan J. Dassey, sealed in an envelope. That's interesting that they would take palm prints. I guess that's probably standard fingerprinting routine, but I keep on coming back to the palm print in my mind anyway, and the palm print on the back of the RAV when I hear about that. So that was which was never run through the database. Special Agent Holmes placed the above-mentioned evidentiary items into his state-assigned vehicle and transported the items to DCI headquarters office in Madison, Wisconsin on 11/10/2005 at approximately 11:30. Director Robbie Lowry met Special Agent Holmes at DCI headquarters and assisted Special Agent Holmes with securing the above-mentioned evidentiary items in DCI's property room. On 11/11/2005, Special Agent Holmes obtained the above-mentioned items from DCI's property room for transport to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab. At 11:42, Special Agent Holmes submitted all of the above items to evidence technician Dolores Larson at the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory. Copies of DCI property receipts 7709 and 7710 will be included in this case file. A copy of the Wisconsin crimes receipts of the physical evidence form will also be included in the case file. End of report.
They also took photos of them. They don't mention that. Now we have the next report.
96?
Yep.
Okay. Is there any information it's a search warrant of Bryan?
Yep, for buccal swabs, fingerprints, and they also list the receipt for the microset, tape, fingerprints, palm prints, buccal swabs. Yet no photographs.
No photographs. On Thursday, November 10, 2005, at approximately 5:41 p.m., Special Agents Lisa A. Wilson and Calumet County Sheriff's Office investigator Wendy Baldwin served a warrant. We already know who did it. Served a warrant on the person of Bryan T. Dassey, MW. What do you suppose that means? Date of birth. Mail away. Okay. 7/15/85 in an examination room at the Aurora Medical Center, 5000 Memorial Drive, Two Rivers, Wisconsin. Investigator Baldwin had called Bryan earlier in the day to coordinate this with him. Special Agent Wilson and Investigator Baldwin met with Bryan and his girlfriend Emily Walker, later identified verbally as Emily A. Walker, date of birth 6/2/1987, in the reception area of the medical center. Special Agent Wilson, Investigator Baldwin, and Bryan were escorted to an examination room by the receptionist. I didn't even know she was there. She didn't make any noise.
Bryan's car was broke. You hear in the jail calls, he finally got his car fixed. The air shocks were broken. He couldn't get it high enough off the ground to move it.
And they busted open the trunk, too, in his car, didn't they?
Yep, they busted they destroyed everything.
Yeah, right. Upon entering the examination room, Bryan asked if he was a suspect in the investigation. Investigator Baldwin explained to Bryan that DNA was needed from each person living on the property, and that DNA could serve to either eliminate or implicate him as a suspect. Didn't they not take Brendan's DNA at that time?
Nope, not until March.
So, yeah, so they needed from each person. I guess Brendan is not rate as a person.
Like I said, they went after his alibi last.
Yeah, crazy. Special Agent Wilson then interjected and said that she wanted to activate the recorder as there was a pending new state law regarding recording. Bryan appeared to be receptive and agreeable to this and did not voice any objection. Special Agent Wilson activated the recorder and explained to Bryan that we had a search warrant to obtain a sample of his DNA. Special Agent Wilson temporarily stopped the recorder to access the exact language of the search warrant regarding what items could be collected and what he'd be searched for. Special Agent Wilson then activated the recorder and read this portion of the search warrant to Bryan. So, I mean, maybe this is a question for Dr. Silkman, but it seems like they took a buccal swab. So what are they talking about when they say regarding what items would be collected and what he'd be searched for? So, I mean, are they talking about multiple different kind of DNA samples, you know, a groin swab and a buccal swab, or is there reason to believe they did more than a buccal swab there?
I don't know. Probably did a groin swab and a mouth swab. They're both used with buccal swab. That's what they just call the applicator.
Okay.
The device.
All right. Okay. Special Agent Wilson then activated the recorder and read this portion of the search warrant to Bryan. At 5:43 p.m., Special Agent Wilson told Bryan that she would read him his Miranda rights. Oh, okay. So they actually he got questioned as if he were arrested. It was explained to Bryan that he was not under arrest. However, he was not free to leave as he was required to comply with the search warrant.
Not under arrest, but you can't go nowhere.
Yeah. Special Agent Wilson explained to Bryan that she would first read the Miranda rights to him, then provide him the form to read. Special Agent Wilson told Bryan that if he was agreeable to talking with us, he should sign the form to indicate so, right? So, in other words, we're going to question you without a lawyer as well, right? Same deal. Special Agent Wilson read each Miranda right to Bryan. After reading each Miranda right, Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan if he understood it. Bryan answered affirmatively that he did understand each right. Special Agent Wilson read Bryan the two waiver questions, asking after each question if he understood. Again, Bryan answered affirmatively that he did. Special Agent Wilson indicated that her reading of the rights and questions and Bryan's affirmations after each with a check mark on the form. Oh my God. Special Agent Wilson then provided the form to Bryan and asked him to read each right and question and indicated that he understood them by putting his initials by each. Bryan read the form and put his initials BD by each bullet point on the form. Bryan then signed the form, agreeing to talk with us, and Special Agent Wilson and Investigator Baldwin signed the form as witnesses. Special Agent Wilson then explained to Bryan that she would be reading the search warrant to him and told him that he would be provided with a copy. Special Agent Wilson then read the search warrant to Bryan. Special Agent Wilson finished and asked Bryan if he had any questions. Bryan said he didn't, and Special Agent Wilson provided Bryan with the search warrant, and she had that she had just read to him and allowed him time to read it for himself. After Bryan was done reading the search warrant, Special Agent Wilson confirmed with Bryan that he had already spoken with another agent, Special Agent Deborah K. Strauss, narcotics.
That happened on the
Bryan,
6th of November when they pulled Bryan and Brendan over. O'Neill and Sikorsky, or what it? Sikorsky talked to both of them. That's why he kept going in and out of the car. He's probably calling back to Dietering too, because Dietering's the one that contacted them to send them out there.
Well, and our buddy Deb had only been on the job since she called on the 3rd, right?
Yeah, the night of yeah, she inserted herself.
Wasn't even sure if it was legal. So Bryan said he had spoken previously to another agent. Special Agent Wilson explained that she and Investigator Baldwin had a few more questions for him regarding his activities and recollections from Monday, October 31st, 2005, Halloween, and asked if he was willing to talk with us. Bryan said he was. However, before we could start, Aurora Medical Center RN Faye L. Fritsch entered the examination room.
You hear her enter the room in the interview too.
Yeah. Explained the procedure to Bryan, telling him that a DNA sample would be collected and that his body would be completely inspected for wounds. Two Rivers Police Department officer Michael Jeancourt was there for the examination, and to photograph any wounds if necessary.
That must have
Special
found
Agent
anything.
Wilson turned off the recorder at approximately 5:53 p.m., and she and Investigator Baldwin exited the examination room and waited outside. At approximately 6:10 p.m., RN Fritsch exited the examination room, sealed the buccal swabs in an envelope, and provided them to Special Agent Wilson. RN Fritsch said that she didn't see any wounds on Bryan, like you need a nurse to see wounds. Special Agent Wilson filled out the DCI property receipt 7709-1 for the swabs and had RN Fritsch sign the receipt. At approximately 6:14 p.m., Special Agent Wilson entered the room and activated the recorder. Special Agent Wilson explained to Bryan that it would be necessary to go to the Two Rivers Police Department to complete the requirements of the search warrant, namely to obtain his fingerprints and palm prints. Special Agent Wilson told Bryan that he could follow us there. Special Agent Wilson then turned off the recorder at 6:15 p.m. and exited the hospital for the police department. At approximately 6:26 p.m., Special Agent Wilson activated the recorder in an interview room at the police department. Special Agent Wilson reminded Bryan of his Miranda rights and asked him if he was still willing to speak with us. Bryan said he was. Special Agent Wilson and Investigator Baldwin interviewed Bryan. That interview was documented on a separate report. I assume that's the one we're going to read next. At approximately 6:55, the interview was concluded, and Special Agent Wilson turned off the recorder. And Special Agent Wilson told Bryan that she'd be interviewing his girlfriend Emily while his prints were being collected. Investigator Baldwin accompanied Bryan while Officer Genquois took his fingerprints and palm prints. Special Agent Wilson interviewed Emily A. Walker, and that interview was documented in a separate report. At approximately 7:07 p.m., Bryan entered the lobby, accompanied by Investigator Baldwin, who indicated that the printing was done, thereby concluding the search warrant. Bryan and Emily left the police department. Special Agent Wilson filled out DCI property receipt D7710-1 for the prints taken from Bryan by Officer Genquois. There was one fingerprint card and one sheet for each palm with a full palm print and a side palm print on each. Special Agent Wilson had Officer Genquois sign the receipt and had Investigator Baldwin sign as a witness. Special Agent Wilson placed these into an envelope and sealed it. Special Agent Wilson and Investigator Baldwin returned to the Avery property at approximately 8:45 p.m. Special Agent Wilson assigned Bryan's buccal swabs and prints over to Special Agent James Holmes for transport to Wisconsin State Crime Lab. Special Agent Holmes signed each property receipt to indicate transfer of evidence. On Friday morning, November 11th, 2005, Special Agent Wilson filled out a search warrant return and provided the returned search warrant and affidavit to Calumet County Investigator Mark Jackass Wiegert. Special Agent Wilson also retained a duplicate of the search warrant. Did it say that I misread? Did I misread that?
Nope.
No, you were right.
Wilson also retained a duplicate of the search warrant returned for her report. Note that Special Agent Wilson later reviewed the microcassette tape used to record the search warrant interview with Bryan. There were two separate occasions where the recorder failed. The recorder failed. One was just after activating it, just prior to reading the Miranda rights and the search warrant to Bryan at the hospital. The other was after the cassette was flipped and turned to side B and activated during the interview with Bryan at the police department. Special Agent Wilson retained custody of the microcassette tape, knocking out its tabs to prevent it being recorded over. Special Agent Wilson entered this microcassette tape on DCI property receipt D7711-1 and labeled it accordingly. The following are attached to this report, made part of the case: the search warrant, the affidavit, the warrant return, the Miranda warning signed, and the various DCI receipts that we all mentioned, which represent the buccal swabs, the prints, and the cassette tape itself.
So we have 18 minutes of a 30-minute interview.
Yeah. And boy, I'll tell you what, whoever wrote this report really needs some to tone it down a little bit. That is probably the wordiest report that I've ever read. There's no need for that. But yeah, they're not very telling about sort of the order that things happen. They talked about a lot, but there's not there's a sort of a stunning lack of information. It's a whole lot of nothing, right? At the end of the day, to me.
Well, the next DCI report is a rendition of what took place during that interview.
The
143.
interview with Lisa Wilson, yeah, the one with his girlfriend, right? You mean?
No, this is their rendition of what happened with Bryan Dassey.
Oh, okay.
A summary of the interview we just listened to.
Oh, I see. So we'll get to hear at least their summary of the missing, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll start
Possibly.
where you are there. Yeah. On Thursday, November 10th, 2005, at approximately 6:26 p.m., Special Agent Lisa A. Wilson and Calumet County Investigator Wendy Baldwin interviewed Bryan J. Dassey, a white male, date of birth 7/15/85, at the Two Rivers Police Department. Special Agent, I thought the interview happened at the hospital.
No, they went to the hospital. They got interrupted by the technician. They were about to start talking to him. They got done with that. Then they said, "Oh, we have to go get your fingerprints from the police station," and then they prompt him about the interview.
Okay. Special Agent Wilson recorded audio of this interview. Special Agent Wilson had read Miranda rights to Bryan at 5:43 p.m. while at the Aurora Medical Center in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, where a registered nurse examined Bryan and collected buccal swabs from him. Special Agent Wilson began the interview by reminding Bryan of his Miranda rights. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan if he was still willing to answer questions. Bryan said, "Sure." Special Agent Wilson explained to Bryan that she wanted to ask him specifically about his activities on Monday, 10/31/2005, Halloween. Special Agent Wilson again asked Bryan if he was willing to answer questions about that.
Oh my God.
He said that he was. Yeah, exactly. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan about his work routine. Bryan said that he usually leaves the house at around 5:30 a.m. and usually arrives home around 5 p.m. Investigator Baldwin asked Bryan where he worked at, and Bryan said at Woodland Face and Veneer in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan if he drove by himself to work or if he carpooled with his mother, Bob Yonda, on October 31st, 2005. Bryan said he usually carpooled with his mother, but was unsure if he did so on Monday, October 31st, 2005. Bryan said he usually spends the night at his girlfriend's house, but on that night, he spent the night at his mom's house. Okay. Grand Central Station, right? Where nobody noticed a fire or a body burning in the backyard. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan what kind of car he drove. Bryan said he drove an Eagle Talon. Special Agent Wilson asked if it was the one with the fancy paint job and spoiler, and Bryan confirmed that it was. Bryan asked about getting his car back, and Investigator Baldwin told him that she would check into that. Yeah, I'm sure she dug right into that. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan if he did anything special on Halloween. Bryan said that he spent the night at his girlfriend's house. I just thought he just said he spent the night at his mom's house on Halloween.
This is their writing the report. We heard what he said.
So just two paragraphs up, Bryan said he usually spends the night. Okay.
This is the officer's report of what they said happened.
Well, I mean, these two things can't be true in the same universe, right? That he spent the night at his mom's house and then he spent his night at the girlfriend's house.
Aliens.
Bryan said his usual routine was to come home from work, take a shower, and get ready to go see his girlfriend, later identified as Emily A. Walker, date of birth 6/7/1987, and then go over to her house. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan how long he was at home from the time he arrived at home until the time that he left for his girlfriend's house. Bryan said it was approximately 1.5 to 2 hours. So that means he would have been there, came home
7,
at 5.
Be there till about 7. Which,
yeah. That's like prime murdering time right there. That's like prime murder and dismemberment time. Didn't see or hear a thing. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan, what he did in that time frame at his house. Bryan said he took a shower, got dressed, and got ready to go over to her house. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan if he ate dinner at home or at his girlfriend's house. Bryan said he ate dinner at his girlfriend's house. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan who was at home while he was there on Halloween. Bryan said he thought that his mother, Barb Yonda, was there. Bryan said his brother Brendan was probably there, as he's usually there playing video games. Bryan said Brendan was about 16 years old. Special Agent Wilson asked about his older brothers. Bryan said he was not positive that his brother Bobby was there, though he said that Bobby was usually home when Bryan got home from work. Excuse me. A lot of reading today. Bryan said that he didn't recall seeing Blaine there that day, but offered that maybe he was outside working on his bike. Well, we know Blaine was.
Blaine left at 5:30 when he got picked up.
Yeah. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan if he recalled seeing anybody else there on Halloween. Bryan said no. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan if he recalled seeing Stephen Avery that day. Bryan said that he didn't see him, but he saw both of his vehicles there. Bryan said Steve owned a truck and a Grand Am, and that he would assume that Steve was at home since both of his vehicles were there, but that he didn't know for sure, as he did not knock on Steve's door or vice versa. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan if he recalled seeing a snowmobile there. Bryan said that the snowmobile was brought there from Crivets 2 or 3 weekends ago, and that he was with Steve when he brought it home.
It was
Bryan
brought home on the 30th of October. It had been there. It'd been there for 11 days as of to this interview.
Yeah, so a couple weekends from then, not a couple weekends from Halloween for sure. It was only what, 1 day from Halloween?
Yeah, they brought it home Sunday.
Yeah. Bryan said that it was a Skidoo Mach 1, and it was parked outside with a cover on top of it. Bryan was asked if he helped unload the snowmobile when it was brought back from Crivets. Bryan said he did not help unload the snowmobile at all. Bryan asked if he knew where the snowmobile was parked at. Bryan said he did not know.
You know who helped him? Brendan helped him take it off the trailer.
Nice. And what are they even asking about the snowmobile? Right? Because they think that Stephen stashed the RAV in the garage for a while, so he had to empty out the garage, which is why they're asking about stuff that might be out of the garage.
They're trying to say that the RAV was in the garage. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Why do you say it's impossible?
Because
Too much shit in there?
they dropped the snowmobile on the right side of the trailer or the garage, and when Earl brought the Suzuki home on the flatbed, he dropped it right in front of the garage.
Yeah.
Steven tried fixing it on Halloween, broke the transmission line because the tranny was going in it. I think it needed a clutch, and then they pushed it in the garage. But you hear accounts from other people, they try saying it was parked on the side of the garage. No, he brought it home on the 30th. It's a fact.
Yeah. Okay. Bryan was asked where Steve's truck was parked at on Halloween when he got home from work. Bryan said that Steve's truck, which he described as a black truck, or Ford as we know, Ford 350 he had, right, was parked in front of his garage. Bryan said that Steve's Grand Am was also there, parked beside the truck.
And you know what that means? The Suzuki was
in the garage.
In the garage.
Bryan said that the truck and the Grand Am were 2 drivable, operable vehicles that Steve had. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan about a gray Suzuki parked in the area. Bryan said that it was a Suzuki Samurai hardtop.
Say that 3 times fast.
No, I already said it 2 times effed up. Bryan said that the Suzuki was obtained at an auction and most likely needed a new transmission. Oh, where did we hear that before, Bill? Mm-hmm. Bryan said that Suzuki was going to be fixed for his grandfather to use up north. Bryan said the Suzuki was located on the side of Steve's garage, closest to Bryan's place. So now Bryan's saying it's on the side of the garage.
Yeah, but they just asked him what vehicles were outside the garage, and he said the truck and the Grand Am.
The Grand Am.
Don't mention the Suzuki until they bring it up.
Yep. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan after work to go see his girlfriend, and if he recalled what he wore that Halloween night. Bryan didn't specifically recall, but he said he would usually wear blue jeans and possibly an Echo sweater. At about this point, the dictaphone beeped, indicating the end of the tape was near. Special Agent Wilson stopped the recording and fast forwarded to the end of side A and of the tape and flipped it over to side B and inserted it into the dictaphone. Special Agent Wilson activated the dictaphone to continue recording the interview. Special Agent Wilson believed the dictaphone to be recording. However, when Special Agent Wilson later checked the tape for its content, there was no conversation recorded on side B. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan he saw anybody else at the residence on Halloween. Bryan said he didn't see anybody else that day. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan if he saw any visitors or friends of Steve, and Ryan said he didn't see any. Is that Ryan?
What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. Ryan. Are they talking about Ryan Hilligus? Bryan was asked about the burning barrels at his residence. Now, I think we heard the questions about whether he saw anybody else on Halloween. So that was before they flipped the tape.
So
I don't recall.
They're lying.
Did we hear the burning barrels question on the tape? I don't recall.
No. But we heard the
So this
question
is
before
actually,
that,
yeah. So they're getting things out of order.
which means they are hiding things.
How can you accuse them of that, Billy? That's so.
The proof is in the pudding.
It sure is. Bryan was asked about the burning barrels at his residence. Bryan said they have 3 or 4 burning barrels, and that they were located between his house and the large 2-car garage that belonged to them. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan how many burning barrels Steve had. Bryan said Steve had 1 burning barrel, and it was set off further from his property, located closest to the driveway by a utility pole there. Special Agent Wilson asked Bryan about a burning pit located by their property. Bryan said that there was a pit behind Stephen's garage, which he called the single-car garage during the interview, and that it was used to burn loose brush and branches. Bryan was asked if he saw any smoke or fire coming from the burning barrels or the brush pit. The brush pit. Right? It's the first time I've heard it referred to as a brush pit.
That's because he was burning brush.
Oh yeah, on Halloween, and Bryan said he did not. So that's all the questions I could ask in 15 minutes. They're so loquacious and detailed about every single thing about who asked who what and exactly who put the tape in and who picked their nose when. And this is the best we get is 2 questions out of the 15 minutes. The interview with Bryan was concluded at approximately 6:56. The audio tape used to record this interview was also used to record the service of search warrant on Dassey at the Aurora Medical Center and 2 Rivers as well. Special Agent Wilson entered this tape on DCI property receipt D711-1. The following is attached to this report as a part of the case file, and that's the copy of the receipt for the tape itself. So there were a bunch of things he said that they didn't want to talk about, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
He's the only one that says 3 or 4.
Yep. We just read Blaine's affidavit during Zellner's response, and he said they had 2. And don't forget, Dassey also had a little burn pit behind their house too.
Yeah.
It's documented in the Trooper Reese's photos from the Wisconsin State Patrol.
Yeah, so we should be able to see on the flyover video on the 3rd whether the Suzuki is outside the garage or not.
You mean on the 4th?
Yeah, the 4th. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I guess the guilters would say he had time to move it.
We got news footage on the 3rd and the 4th too. But he brought it home on the 30th. And by Bryan's account, it was not visible when he looked out. When getting home on Halloween, all he seen was 2 vehicles.
And why did he not see any smoke or any fire from the brush pit?
Well, there's another case report where they state that he'd seen smoke coming from behind the garage when he left to go to his girlfriend's. which is probably true, but it was also dark out, so I don't see how you see smoke at night. You
Unless the
see
fire's really
fire,
bright.
you won't see smoke though.
Yeah.
And
Gotta be.
the December 26th phone call, Scott Tadich clarifies that by the time he dropped Barb off, there was no more fire. Stephen is on the phone at 8:58 talking to Jody.
There
So
she
the
goes
fire
again.
is gone. It's not
Yep.
she's breathing again. It's she's leaving again.
Whoop, she's breathing again.
Oh, there
She's
she
Are you
got
goes.
trying to give
no
somebody
voice
clicks?
for us, the cat.
So
You trying to give somebody
Milby, can I-
clicks, Bill? Oh, please
ahead.
go ahead, Doctor.
Yeah, can I just ask, right? Now, we've listened to Bryan's interview, right? Now, say you're an investigator, right? And Big Jeff just read out the report that just talked about just pure garbage, right? What do you gather from Bryan's interview? How much did he know about what went on?
Not much.
Yeah, zero. So one would have expected a report to say Bryan Dassey could not add anything or any information of interest pertinent to this
Do
investigation.
any of these questions
See you later.
do any of these
To any of these
questions
questions.
have anything
Correct.
to do with what they learned on the 6th?
Correct.
We don't know.
Well, the thing is that I know they have to write reports, right? But 3/4 of the contents of that report is just pure garbage, verbal diarrhea, I call it, right? It's clear that those investigators who are asking questions are fishing for information.
Mhm.
They're looking for inconsistencies, right? Because what they do is what they did to the brothers. Oh, he said this, you said that. What's the truth here? The mere factor that Bryan was actually off the property, it should have been discussion over, right? Because he's not a pertinent material witness, right? He clearly cannot provide any information to this case, except they didn't mention the fact of what Bobby said to him. Is that correct?
Mhm.
In that report, they never
And
said.
that's probably why we don't have a side B.
Oh,
Yes,
maybe. It could be. We don't
but
know.
there is.
Do we know when he said that allegedly to him?
Well, there is. I know that Zilna has got it in her filing that I think it was on the 4th, November the 4th, sometime like that. He said that his brother said, "I saw Teresa leave the property, and you should speak to Bobby."
That's the
So
same night
that's
as the
written
deer.
down.
Mhm.
Yes, so that's written down. But from that report that we listened to, and also the audio, there was nothing that Bryan provided that was of interest. Would you agree?
Not to the prosecution.
No.
It
To me,
debunks
the fact that he's
it debunks their depiction of the RAV4 being in Stephen's garage 100%.
Well, you see, that's what the investigators were hoping for.
And
The
they
investigators
didn't.
was-
It didn't help them.
That's right. Yep, because they were saying that the RAV4 was hidden in Stephen's garage. Because remember, it was broad daylight. People were coming and going, right? And also remember Earl and Fabian. They never mentioned seeing a RAV4 outside. So their impression is, okay, the garage was empty. Teresa's Toyota RAV4 was present inside the garage. Well, clearly, if the Suzuki was in there, you can't fit a RAV4 in there, right? Which sort of makes the whole thing real farcical, right? So they're completely ignoring any evidence or any suggestion that destroys their hypothesis.
Yeah, that's their depiction. That's what they used in court. This is during Brendan's trial.
But it doesn't show all the stuff that was on each side of the garage.
Oh, well, that's the thing.
doesn't show the Grand Am.
There's another photo that they used in Steve's
Look at the
trial.
vehicle that they use.
Yep.
Look, it's green.
Yeah.
And then, like Millbilly said, the depiction for Stevens is different,
I want a garage that's that clean.
right?
Correct. See, they're trying to come up with a scenario. Every time they come up with a scenario of what happened, it doesn't work out. And that's really pissing them off and frustrating them because they're trying to work out, wait a minute, that garage there, that's where the killing allegedly occurred. Well, depending on which trial you look at, right? That's the site of where Teresa was murdered, shot 10 or 11 times, right? And then, you listen to Brendan's coerced confession. Oh, yeah, we picked her up. We put her in the RAV. Oh, then we took her out of the RAV. We put her on that skidoo, brought her down to the burn pit. How? Where? The whole thing doesn't fit. The whole thing is completely ludicrous, right? So they're trying to come up with this scenario. Nothing makes sense. And the answer is, the reason why it doesn't make sense is that Teresa was never there. She had left the property, same with the vehicle.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'll reiterate, Bryan being there from 5 to 7. This play, there's people coming and going. There's Dasseys everywhere, including Barb and Scott driving home. It just doesn't make any sense. That narrative makes no sense that she got burned in that fire pit. Sorry.
Correct.
Unfortunately, the next interview we have with audio is Brendan Dassey's interaction when they talk to him at school and then take him to Truro Police Department. All the other interviews that took place after this, we have a rendition in DCI reports and queso. And based upon what just happened with Bryan's interview, can you really trust what they're saying?
No, not one bit.
Well,
Thank you.
Not in queso.
Well,
But Millbilly, just one quick question, if I may. How come they served this warrant on Bryan? As in, we're going to take buccal swabs, we're going to take you to the hospital, we're going to check you out, we're going to take your palm prints. Why did they do that?
I guess
Did they suspect him?
I guess because he was on the property, but they should have did that for every individual that stepped foot on that property that they knew of. Robert Fabian,
Correct.
Scott Tadich,
Correct.
Andre Martinez. He was there on the property that day.
Yep.
There's multiple people that
Correct.
potentially
Because
could have left A23.
that's correct. That's correct. You see, if they can put Bryan Dassey in the pool of potential suspects, then everyone that came on site, as you said, Millbilly, should be equally regarded as a potential suspect. I mean, Bryan said, hey, look, I was with my girlfriend. I wasn't even there. And they still got his buccal swab. They still got his fingerprints. That's serious. Because do you see what the investigator
It's
said to him?
intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. He goes,
It's
we
really
can rule you in.
intimidation.
Yeah, we can rule you in or rule you out. Hey, wait a minute. What about everybody else that stepped foot on the salvage yard, right? So technically speaking, what they should have done is that every person that Teresa Halbach knew or had interacted with, especially that day or the day before, could have been a potential suspect, which means fingerprints,
Zippers. Yep.
DNA sample, right? So it's rather amazing because a lot of crimes have been solved because what they've actually done is they've taken everyone's DNA sample in the county, right?
Oh,
and
wow.
they did it by process of elimination, right? And so why did they only look at a small pool of people? Because think about it, if you had your blood taken or a buccal swab and your fingerprints, oh my God, all of a sudden you're feeling pretty bad, right? Because you potentially could be a suspect, right?
They're
Look what
looking
happened
for the
to
weakest
Stephen
link.
in 85. He was nowhere near Penny, had 16 material witnesses, and he still ended up in prison.
They
So
are looking
it's-
for the weakest link.
Total corruption.
Yep, and they found it too. They did find it. Yep, they did.
Well, you make a great point there, because it's got me wondering.
Took them 4 months.
In order to get those buccal swabs, you have to have a judge sign a warrant. And what's the probable
Okay.
cause for somebody who
Remember,
didn't get there?
these
5 o'clock?
warrants were signed and issued on the 7th.
Yes.
On the 8th, they
And it's-
tried to serve him on Earl, but he was hiding. Barb and Stephen come to the property. They still don't serve the warrants then. They wait till the next day.
Yes, and isn't it true that they also took buccal swabs and also fingerprints from Mama Avery
And
as well?
Alan.
Yes.
There you go.
They sent the
So
officer
now the
out
whole
to, they sent the officer out to Crivets. Because
yes,
hearing the jail calls, Brendan and Al stayed up north. This is probably the
So,
best thing for Brendan, is because they couldn't talk to him then.
I'm not. Were you on the last interview, Tony? One of the things that somebody found out was that the interview with Dolores on the 9th was
Yeah.
actually videotaped. Audio taped, and
Right.
that audio ended up next to the Veely CD in Tom Fassbender's personal possession for 12.
And it's never surfaced.
never served. We still don't have it.
And it literally
Well-
says beside the name.
yeah. Well, imagine if
safekeeping.
imagine if Dolores says, "Hey, look, I took the mail to my son, and I didn't see anything nefarious, or you don't want that out in the wild."
And
You
or
want to
He
suppress
was
it.
at my house for dinner.
Correct. Yep, 100% correct.
Yeah, we need to
So
get that.
So
It's-
what's very
we're trying.
frustrating is
We're trying to
If
get
anything, Zelna needs to get it if she don't have it already.
She's
Yeah.
been the information has been forwarded to her.
I know. Just like the DCI report of Mr. Ringtube. Is there audio of it? Because we just have a rendition of what took place. And we, like I said, we just watched what happened with Bryan. So, and part of Brendan's, they stopped the tape.
Yeah.
Because they come back in and they start bringing up things that they didn't even fucking talk about.
yes.
I was interacting with some clown on Reddit about the Spring Tube interview, and he said, and we said, well, where? I said, where are the questions? How come we don't get to see the questions? He said, well, that's the way they write the reports. If you're out there now, Mr.
It's
Discovery,
Jeopardy.
they
But-
very clearly indicate what questions were asked in these reports. So when you say they,
Yeah.
I'm not sure who you mean.
But all jokes aside, you can see that they came in with a clear narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did is they followed that narrative to a T, which means that they had investigator bias, tunnel vision. Number one suspect was Stephen Avery. And the questions that they asked the boys, in other words, the brothers, essentially were saying, are you guys involved as well? That's the way it went down, right? And unfortunately, they found the weakest link. The weakest link wasn't Jody Stokowski, right? Remember how they interviewed her and said all these nasty things about Stephen, what Stephen was going to do to her daughter, etc., etc. One of the worst interviews I've ever seen. They found the weakest link, and that weakest link was Brendan, unfortunately. And Brendan was Stephen's alibi.
Exactly. Well, at least we know how to operate an audio recorder now after this. Or wait, maybe we don't because they didn't do it right.
They didn't. Fassbender didn't do it right in Brendan's interview.
Fox Hills.
All we needed was the manual of
Do
the tape
do
recorder.
you guys believe their equipment didn't work at the Fox Hills?
No, I don't believe
No.
that any more than I believe that it wasn't recording this time. They do this day in and day out.
Yep, you never present information that's going to hurt your case. You just leave it completely out.
Well, thank you all. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you again.